Yeah, well, representation is very, very much helpful. The Jacksons got in the Easter Talent Show and they won. The recording studio was right on our block. So anytime we'd hear guitars cranking up or the drums starting, we knew we were about to get some free entertainment, and everyone would go out and play hopscotch, double dutch to the live music on the block. I ended up in the studio with Marshall just to come and sing some backing vocals. I remember they wanted her to sing another song. We were in New York or in the mean streets or something. I was like, okay, they want you to sing another song. Isn't that great? The encore. She's like, $5,000. Me and Shaka. Shaka, I love her to bits. Oh my, I'm about to cry. Girl, you got me crying. She could see what I was going through because she'd been through it. She was like, you know what? Do this. You know what? Do that. You know what? Don't trust this. Don't trust that. Don't trust them. Don't trust that. I love doing the live shows. I love working with my band. I love being a heritage artist. I love being a legacy artist or whatever. But me, I like glitter, baby.
Well, Kym Mazelle, what a pleasure. This is such a weird moment for me to do this interview because I've just been told by the police that they found a World War II bomb in the area where I live and they might empty all the flats. But I'm going to stay here because if this is the last hour on Earth, then I'm with the right person to spend it
Oh my God, a World War II bomb in the area. Well, it hasn't detonated since then, so
Yeah.
I think you're safe. It's not gonna go off.
Yeah, no, I think I'm
Wow.
safe as well. Anyhow, I just want to say, I mean, we know each other. We know each other from MTV when I interviewed you a few times back then. Um, we actually spent an evening in New York on Christopher Street, and we went. You can't remember this. See, I've got a really good memory. We can't remember this, but we went to a gay bar where some drag queens were singing, and you from the audience blew them off stage with your voice, which I never forget because I was just standing there thinking, bloody hell, what amazing.
Wow.
You sang at my birthday party in Greece as
In
well.
Greece, yeah,
Yeah.
we had the motorcycles, me and D. Camilla, Army of Lovers,
Yeah, yeah.
Rebecca.
We came in on backs of Harley Davidsons.
That's right.
Yeah. And so that was really good. And then we had a wild night with La Camilla in Sweden, but I won't talk about that too much.
And I can't
And
even remember that either. It must have been really good. I tell people I don't remember the 90s, so don't hold me accountable. I bits and pieces, but which proves I was there.
And I remember also we went to Shoom together, didn't we? Danny Rampling's club.
The
Actually,
Happy
right.
Happy Shoes. Those
Yeah.
were the days of all of that. Christopher Street, though, was amazing. They had some of the best drag queens ever, really, back in the day. And they were really performers, and they taught me how to do my makeup. I used to love to go to New York to see drag shows. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, listen, I obviously want to take you back to your childhood because they are the formative years of anyone. But can you tell me really what sort of family you were brought up in? What sort of music you were surrounded by as a child?
Well, an African American family, middle class, working mom, working dad. My mom had her own business. My dad was a local community leader, and he worked with the community and music. My dad loved Curtis Mayfield and like the Impressions, and he loved Arthur Prysock, and he loved the smooth singers. He loved Dinah Washington, jazz, conscious music too. He liked that kind of stuff.
But
Yeah,
so
Nina
anyhow, you're
Simone.
brought up in this household, and there you are inside of you. You've got this almighty voice, this incredible voice. When was the moment for you when your family, as a child, because often, children sing for their parents and so on and so forth, when was the moment that they sort of stood back and went, wow?
I think when I was at Wembley. How'd you get here? Kimberly, how did you get here? I was like, all those times of you telling me to go do my homework and I snuck out the window to go do something else. But I think when I was a kid, they kind of recognized I had a voice for singing. But you must understand, growing up in America and growing up, near the Baptist church and all that, everybody could sing. It wasn't my dad sang. My mother could not sing though. She could not carry a tune in a bucket. She just could not. But yeah, so I definitely would think it would be like in my later years because I kept persisting, so much. Even growing up as a teen and being in some talent shows and winning, I don't my dad always did recognize. My mom, she was more practical. Go to university, get a proper job, dot 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 dot. But my dad, as he was artistic, as he worked for in civil rights and community rights, and he worked with young boxers. He had a artistic side. I think he saw it quicker, and he would groom me more than my mom. And my mom would come along for the ride, of course. And she made clothes, so a lot of clothes that she would sew and stuff I would wear for talent shows. Actually, they weren't per se. Again, I had to be clever with my mom because she was very practical. So I asked her to make me something for maybe to sing in school. Not that I was going to a club to wear it and sing in a club. So I was very, and I might put some glitter on it or roll it up a little shorter when I got in the club. But I was like, oh, mom, we're having a talent show. I need a little outfit. But yeah, so yeah, I had a great, great childhood coming up in Gary, Indiana. I loved it. We had all kind of music everywhere. Clubs were everywhere. In any given weekend, Dinah Ross and the Supremes, Gladys Knight would be in Gary at one of the local clubs. The blues artist Bobby Blue Bland or BB King would be on one of the avenues. I was like 5 years old, but but I knew, the Jackson Five. They were from the neighborhood and from the block. So we remember the Easter talent show, which was a very big talent show in Gary, Indiana. You had to be the best of the best to get in it. And I remember the Jacksons got in the Easter talent show and they won, of course, the talent show. I don't think I was able to go because I was a little bit too young still. I was younger than Michael, but I remember on the radio show because they had it broadcast live on the little AM radio, local radio. Back then, local radio meant a lot. Local, as you know, and pirate radios in London meant a lot. It shaped a lot of artists' life and career. Like in Gary or Chicago, local artists, local musicians would go on local radio, local television, and build their career from there before they would go to New York or LA and become national. So those things were very, very helpful, in our community and seeing and hearing, the Jacksons on the radio was like, amazing. It just really kind of sparked me to go like, yeah, I'm gonna do something like that.
Didn't they have a studio about 2 doors down from you?
They had the recording studio. Yes, that's right. The recording studio was right on our block. So anytime we'd hear guitars cranking up or the drums starting, we knew we were about to get some free entertainment, and everyone would go out and play hopscotch, double dutch to the live music on the block. Yeah, it was very amazing. Yeah.
I mean, as a African American and part of what was and what still is really, it's a sort of marginalized community. How important was it for you to have these African American icons around you, to someone who could say to you, in a sense, just from being there, this is what you can achieve, this is what you can do with your life?
Yeah, well, representation is very, very much helpful. I mean, and even like even with your neighbors, and even just seeing the mayor of our town was African American. Even my mom, she had her own business, so you knew you could have a small business. My dad, the neighbors, our community was really rich with talent. So It wasn't really being in America during that time, the late 60s, after the struggle with, Martin Luther King had gone through for voting rights and equal, rights, which, we didn't get everything, but, just watching all of that, we knew, as Jesse Jackson said, I might be purple, I might be whatever, but I am somebody. We knew that we were somebody, So, things weren't like totally blown up, like to like, if you're not a superstar, you're not successful. You knew that if you had your own small business somewhere, or if you had a craft that you had achieved, whether it was a plumber who was very good and made a business out of it, and the next thing he had one van or one, kit full of his stuff, to owning a building or owning, having an office. So we knew that everything glittery wasn't always the goal to go for. But me, I like glitter, baby.
What did your parents want you to do? Because I know that you went to university and you studied, I think you studied law, didn't you? Entertainment law or something.
I took entertainment law. I studied opera.
Ah, right. Okay.
I studied opera like that first year. I was kind of all over the place. It's kind of like another thing about America, it's not really common where people get a gap year. Whereas over here, you get a gap year, you go travel, you figure your life out, whatever, and then you go do an apprenticeship and you get on with it. Over there, it's a bit 4-year university. 1 year you bunk off school trying to find yourself or whatever. So for me, I was like studying. I knew I wanted to do music, and I knew that my mom was practical and saying get an education. So I was trying to find the clever way to do both. So I was like, oh, music education, dot dot dot, and all of these different classes would come with it, like studying opera at one of the schools, studying music education, studying um, music theory, studying where you can use music to help people with mental health illness. I did all of that. I just took a class. And then finally I found Columbia College, which was kind of like a lot of these schools now, like Point Blank. You can go as an artist and study. This was in the 80s. And Columbia was one of the best schools. You had entertainment law, you had events, how to put on events, you had on how to promote concerts, how to do radio, how to speak in front of a television camera. All of this was in 82. I didn't want to age myself, darling, but this was like in 1981, 82. So and then you would practice, recording. So I learned how to record. And then for my final senior project, we put together like a record. I put together a record label and pressed so many copies. And that's what ended up in the UK. Early house music.
But okay, just going back to the opera part, because I just wondered if the techniques of opera actually really helped you or affected the way that you sing, that you actually took something from that.
Yeah, I think I did actually, because even though it was a segue, okay, mom said do something, tick this, even though it was a segue, I learned another discipline. I learned a discipline of diaphragm singing. I learned a discipline of hydrating and water and resting your voice. I learned a discipline of head voice and chest voice and nasal voice and ad lib and different time, and then language. So pronunciation of words were things that kind of just went in. You're not paying a lot of attention to it because I wasn't really thinking about going into the opera, although I did love Jesse Norman. I loved Grace Brumbry. I love Leontine Price. I was like, these are Black women in the opera that are like everywhere singing in the gowns and just bold. I was like, could do that.
I mean, you were clearly a sponge at university, like taking everything in that you could possibly take in. And I know that you did a number of internships. Can you tell me what things that you did that were really of fascinating interest?
Oh my God, what didn't I do? I did like every internship that came up on the board at school. If they put it on the wall, I went and did it. I did what do you call PR press work for DJ International Records with oh, this is going back so far that I can't. Rocky Jones, he was the president. He was the first house label, because you must remember this is like the birth of house. This is before even house was getting housed. So I was able to come in early on that, and from that, I went out with some of the artists as a press secretary and the personal assistant for Lolita Holloway, for
That was an
Derek
experience,
Kennedy.
wasn't it?
That was a hell of an experience, baby. Lolita Holloway, she took a shining to me, but she still cussed me out. But she took a liking to me. And she said, "Come on, baby, come on here with me. Watch this and watch that." And I remember they wanted her to sing another song. We were in New York or in the mean streets or something. And I was like, "Okay, they want you to sing another song. Isn't that great?" The encore, she's like, $5,000. I was like, I go tell them 5,000 more dollars and I'll sing another song and get the money up front. And I'm like, I'm still in college. I'm just doing an internship. She looked at me and don't come back here empty handed. Steve, I walked in that room in New York. I said, she'd go back on. She said $5,000. And they looked at me and they didn't really blink too hard and gave me a stack of money. I took it, gave it to her, and she said, "I know it's all there." And I said, "I don't know. This is what they gave me. If it ain't my problem." But and she went on and sang Love Sensation for about another hour.
Oh wow,
It,
she knew how to do it then.
it was
Obviously.
amazing. And this was at the Paradise Garage. So the place was packed, with people. And I didn't really realize at the time how historic Lolita was iconic. I just knew she was mean, and I had better do what she said. And then she, you know what I mean. And then Rocky Jones sent me on a plane with her and Daryl and Sean, and but that night in the Paradise Garage and Larry Levan and all of that, I came in at the tail end, but I got to be there and I got to see it, and I even got a chance to perform when I did my first record, Taste My Love. So I got a chance to, and I'm a lover. So I got it. This is before London, before I ever went to the UK.
But
And I got
this
paid $5,000 too. I was like,
who
where's
who
my $5,000?
who did you get to go and pick that up? Did you?
Yes, I did. Because Lolita told me, put your money, wear a girdle, put your money in your girdle and have it on you when you go on stage. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. But when you actually were, with Lolita at that point, and that was, before you'd had your own single out and you performed, did you imagine that you would be on stage? Was that something that was really within you at that point? Or
Oh yeah.
oh right, okay. So when did that come?
I always knew it from a little kid. I always knew I was going to be on stage. That was something I always knew I was gonna. I guess probably it solidified itself when Michael Jackson left the block and went into the television. That's when it solidified itself, when the Jacksons left Gary, Indiana, and they went into the TV on the Ed Sullivan Show. That was people that I had seen, heard from my area that ended up in the TV. That was my thought of it. You can go from here into the TV. He went from there into there. I could do it too. Now, what the steps were going to be or any of that, I kind of got an inkling of, I guess maybe when I was about 9 or 10, watching Ike and Tina Turner. They were in Europe, in London, in the UK. And something planted itself in me that I would be in London, and that's where I would start from a child when I didn't even know what London was.
Well, that's amazing. Where do you think, it's really funny because I've talked to so many artists over the years and looked actually into the childhood of many artists, and often their drive comes from some childhood wound. Doesn't have to be big in any way, but often it comes from something. And myself, that my father didn't have much interest in me, didn't want a third child, and actually he ignored me for the first years of my life, according to my mum. And for me, I think I wanted to get attention, or I wanted to get love somewhere else to compensate what I didn't get from my father. Have you ever looked back and thought, where did I get that drive from?
I No, actually, I mean, I saw that my parents were driven, and I saw that my community was driven, and perhaps it was just probably from being a Black girl growing up in America, because all of us were treated the same way and ignored. You know what I mean? It's like your hair is not right. This isn't right about you. Oh, you speak up too much. Oh, just so many things from classroom. And then, I was bused to an all white school when I was 8 years old. So, the story of Ruby Bridges, I was like, Ruby Bridges did it like 5 years before I did, and she had to have the National Guards take her to the white school to integrate. So with me, it was um it was really a trip actually having that happen, because it wasn't so much, again, the children, it was the adults that did not want us there and made it very clear. Like, if I was brought up with Black pride, I understood Black leadership, I understood this and that. Like I said, the mayor of my town was African American, the fire chief, all of the postmen in the past, everybody. I grew up in Africa, might as well have been in Chocolate City in America. And then I was put in this place where it was being integrated in the 60s. And the teachers didn't like my response to certain things in the classroom, and just really wanted to change my ideal attitude or pride of myself to lower me. That's what it was. They thought I was a little bit too high in having self awareness. So if I said, say they're trying to tell me that Columbus discovered America, and as this little Black child, I'm like, when he discovered it, it was already people there. So he discovered land that already existed from some, and those may not have been my words, but I would have had something like that to say because I was taught at home other things. So instead of them looking at a child just raising her hand saying, Miss, um, my mom or my dad or the other school said that, they became angry with me. I even had an incident with one of the teachers. I was like, I don't know, 7 years old, took me to the principal's office because she was trying to make me say something else. And I was like, no, no, that's not true. Or I don't know. She took me to the office. Instead of pulling my ear, she put her nails into my arm until I bled. I'll never forget it. I was a kid. So maybe, something like this instilled like a pride in me, or something that, I am somebody, as Jesse Jackson used to say, and just because I'm Black or brown or whatever doesn't mean that I'm not just as good as anyone else. I can just deserve a shot. I deserve to earn a living. I deserve to, and I stayed in that path, like you said, with your dad ignoring you. You felt, I'm going to push through. I'm going to push through, and I'm going to, make something out of my life, regardless of this teacher or this school or this system saying I cannot.
Now, one of the internships you did was for the American shock jock, what I call him, basically. There was a radio presenter that you worked for, and wasn't he the one that was organized this disco demolition derby?
Steve Dahl. How do you remember all of this?
Well, no, I do the research. I can't remember everything.
Yeah, Steve Dahl. Yeah, that was another internship. Oh my God, disco sucks. Yeah. Now
I mean, just to say who he is, because he was basically incredibly anti-disco and anti-gay, wasn't he? Because
absolutely,
it was, disco was the
it was synonymous
community.
with gay.
Yeah.
Disco, it was synonymous with gay clubs, Studio 54, gay, whatever. And Steve Dahl, I don't know if he's still alive or what, but Steve Dahl started this to blow up the records. And part of it was industry a little bit as well too, because they were bringing in rock and roll. This was the 70s. I was not working with Steve Dahl in the 70s. I was a teenager, people. I went later. But but I do remember the whole thing. It was at Kaminsky Park or one of the Soldiers Fields, one of the big stadiums where they took all the disco records and blew them up. And they did it, they ended up doing it across the country to sort of I guess get rid of the music, get rid of the club scene. And all of those people who made fabulous records, from the Ritchie family to Chic to Donna Summer to Odyssey, all were out of work. I mean, he basically put a whole level of brilliant artists and brilliant music out of work for until house music came, because house is the child of disco.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I want to get to, because you mentioned Taste My Love and performing that where Lolita Holloway had performed. So for you, how did that actually come about? Because I know that Chicago is really the nearest biggest city to Gary, isn't it? It's not,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
we're
so far
20
away.
minutes. We're 20 minutes away. That's where I was at university.
Ah,
That's where I was
okay.
at school, and I lived in the dormitory. I lived in the dorm, and this broken beat stuff was being played, and I went to one of the clubs or something, I don't know, and it didn't really have vocals, and it wasn't really, I didn't even know what it was, but people were dancing. I was like, okay, and like doing interns and stuff like that. You start hearing about the music and the club. So I'm young, I'm hanging out, I'm trying to find my path and doing music. And then I met Dwayne Powell, who ended up being my business partner. He was from the Bahamas, but his parents, he grew up in America, African American, Bahamian American, whatever. He was doing law, and he was like one of the first lawyers trying to get some of the artists, or who were gonna be artists, because we weren't even artists yet. This is pre house, being the whole genre. It was on the precipice. They were just starting to go into London. And I met him. He introduced me to Marshall Jefferson. And Marshall Jefferson was doing a record. I was I think at the end of studying at the university, I had to do a project. My project was to record and make my own label, record label, whatever. So all of it kind of worked. I ended up in the studio with Marshall just to come and sing some backing vocals on this song. The girl, the lead singer, Marshall didn't particularly care for her voice. He's like, well, Kym just sang all these background vocals. It took her 5 minutes. Let's just take this girl off and put Kym on the song.
So you went like that, did you?
So no, not really. This was going on while I was sitting behind the big screen. In the studios, you got so I didn't know what the conversation was. I just see people move. I said, oh, maybe they didn't like my backing vocals. Maybe I overpowered the singer too much and I need to, come back a bit. And then he came in, he said, da 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 da, we want you to sing the lead. And I was like, okay. And then next thing I see the girl looking at me like, she was giving me the face. And yeah, so I just ended up putting the vocals on that. And then we ended up putting it on my label, which was a label me, Dwayne, and Donnie put together called
Police
Police
Records.
Records, which I
Yeah.
used for my senior project, at university. It was my thesis or whatever. So we pressed about 2,000 copies and went and started doing the clubs locally, selling it out the, boot of your car. And the DJs or whatever pirate radio people, we didn't know that it was pirate then either. They ended up bringing the stuff back to the UK, put it on Kiss FM, which was a pirate then, and whatever other pirate there was. There was some places in Manchester. Um, got a hold of it, and yeah, but I ended up in New York because it was a big song in the club scene. At this point, everything was underground. All of this, everything I'm talking about is an underground movement. We may not have understood it to be that, but that's what it was. Even MTV during the time when you came in was a bit underground. MTV Europe and all of that. So we birthed the cool. We rebirthed the club, and the raves and all of that through this house music. And there was this other club music coming out of Jamaica, which they call dance hall, that Kiss used to play as well. So it was like between Chicago dance and Jamaica dance hall. Early Kiss when I first went there, when Trevor was a young DJ, and I remember he used to bring me tea. He'd bring me my cup of tea. And Trouble Anderson, Paul was there, rest in peace. I love that boy so much. Oh my God. So it was like all underground. And we were doing the clubs only in New York. We go to New York, maybe a few little clubs in Chicago, but New York is where you went and you got paid.
What did you make of New York at that point?
Oh, it was everything, Charlie. Oh my God. New York. New York was everything. So was Chicago, but New York, it was everything. I mean, you could just, oh my gosh. And just the community of dance music, of the Black and Puerto Rican gay boys in the club, B-boys or whatever they were calling themselves, just all of that. That was everything. It was everything to me. And we just loved each other and pushed each other and vibed. And somebody would tear some fabric and say, girl, you need to be wearing this and fix your hair and do your makeup. And it was free. It wasn't nonsense, and it wasn't all crazy like it is today. It's a bit shady now. It's too shady for me.
So do you remember the point where I presume someone said to you, okay, well, you need to come to London. We need to go to London. What happened?
No. I took myself to London because remember, as a kid, I got the vision that I had to go to London. So the opportunity came. Adonis had just come back from performing in London, and he had his work permit, and it had the person's name on there who had brought him to the UK to perform. Because it was always, I knew I was coming to the UK. I just knew that. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but then I saw that. I was like, Adonis, can I have his number and name? I want to call him and see if maybe, because the girls weren't going, just the guys were going over to London.
Was that David Levy?
And they were like, it's okay, but they don't pay no money, I was like, oh, okay. But I was like, what I'm looking for is bigger than money. I'm thinking to myself. So Adonis gave me the number. I called the guy.
Who was it?
On the phone. The guy was David Levy, who's now the head of
William Morris Endeavor.
William Morris and everything. But we still friends to this day. And I called him and I said, hi, David. My name is Kym Mazelle, and I got a record called. He said, "Are you Kym Mazelle that May Taste My Love?" or something like that. And I was like, I am. And something like, did you know your record was on the charts over here or something like that? And someone else couldn't make it on the gig that he was booking, but I didn't know about that. That was his own personal thing. It was like, would you come to London? I think before he could say London, I was screaming, going like, yes, baby, yes. And I think that was like 1988 when I did that call. So I called. Everything pushing was me pushing and connecting, pushing and connecting, like just living, following the breadcrumbs, if you want to say, or the life's breadcrumbs.
So there you are. So you come to London, you land in London, and
I went straight to the WAG Club. I think I was at the WAG Club or someplace like that. I was at these little clubs, and I think the record companies have found out that a showcase.
That's it.
A showcase was kind of put together. They found out I was in town. I don't even know how it happened. Maybe Dwayne put it together because he was co-managing me. I was managing myself, and he was helping to manage me. So maybe that, some of that is kind of fuzzy now, but I do remember it was myself, Marshall, Frankie Knuckles, and Orange Juice Jones at one point playing at some place on Tottenham Court Road, and it was like 5 or 6 labels there. I do remember that.
How quickly did it turn from you coming to London to you having a record deal?
Like that.
It's amazing.
Like that. I was like, okay. It was really like riding wild horses. It was, next thing I know, I was in the studio at the Matrix studio, just near the British Museum. I can't remember the name of the street. I always remember the fifth step squeaked. And Nigel owned the Matrix, and it was like we went in there to demo some songs or write something for EMI, for Rob Sawyer over at EMI. And Danny Danny D was in the other studio. That's when we wrote Useless, and Got to Get You Back with CeCe Rogers and Marshall. We wrote 2 songs. And yeah, and Danny D was like, if you don't take this, I'm gonna take it. He said it to Rob. But I mean, I couldn't go anywhere because EMI had already put me in the studio. So basically, in a way, it was kind of done. I was basically signed to EMI then, whether I knew it or not. And then we ended up, going back to America. I guess the bosses said, sign this shit right now. Excuse me, sign this right now. And I became the first signing. I was the first lady. That's where the first lady of house music comes from, because it's literally what happened. It's not just, oh, it's a name they made up. EMI immediately like coined that phrase. First lady of house music, first signing of house artist to a major label in England at EMI, Manchester Square, second American to be signed here, EMI, Manchester Square. I was like, well, who was the first? Jimi Hendrix.
Oh my God.
That's what I said. And all of this phenomenal stuff just kept happening. And I was like, it was like almost all too much, because at the same time, being on the label and recording, going back and forth from New York to London to Chicago to LA to Atlanta, just getting music together. People start to see you. So the next thing you know, I'm like getting called from Mick Jagger, or having lunch with Princess Diana for Help a London Child, or at Smash Hits. Remember Smash Hits used to do those really big events, like at Wembley. They would be at Wembley, actually. TV shows, just and then flying back to America. My daughter was like, I had to get her in stable school, so she would stay with her dad and go to school during the school year, then come with me in the summer on tour. It then Soul to Soul. I was still signed to EMI. I ended up writing Missing You with Jazzy. The next thing you know, I'm the lead singer for Soul to Soul because Karen left, blah, blah, blah. And it just kept going on and on. Next thing you know, I'm in Greece with you, walking up the Macropolis and blah, blah, blah. And then, the changing of the guard and all of this stuff and blah. It was just a lot.
Just before we get to all that, when you signed the contract, who was the first person you called?
I can't even remember.
No, I just wondered whether, because when something amazing happens in your life.
I don't remember. I'm sure it was my family. I'm sure it was my family. I had just lost my dad, which nobody knows. I don't really even talk about it. I had to displace it and put it somewhere else because it was traumatizing. And 2 weeks before I was supposed to come and do that showcase, I lost my dad in the most horrific way. And I was like, not coming. And I remember my mom got Dwayne to take me off of the bed. He said, she got to go. This was her destiny, blah, blah, blah. And, I came. So I wasn't able to call my dad because he would have been the first person because he rode with me the whole way. So I'm sure it was my mom, my sisters, you know, Dwayne was with me. So he would have known he was there with me. I still have the picture of when I signed the contract. I have never posted it on social media because one day I'll probably write this book or finish this book and I'll put it in there. But I still have the photograph of all the label heads around me, this glass of champagne, the bottle of champagne, little glass, me with the ink pen from 1988. Yeah. And it was amazing. I think I called one of my teachers too, because I was like, it happened, it happened. And then, went back to Chicago and then just everybody in early house music. I think I put everybody on my record. I gave everybody a job. Everybody. Yeah, it was like, okay, you helped me do this, or you believed in me to do that, or you just winked at me or whatever. I was like, house music is on a major label now, y'all. We're on a major label. We're not just underground. And I just was like, everybody, on the record, thanks to dot 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 dot, and it just kept going on and on and on. And yeah, it was quite mind blowing and surreal. And I didn't understand England because it was a totally different country. Everything was quite odd too, except for in the bubble of the music people, because music people are mostly international. But anytime I had to step outside of that, where it was in England, I was like, oh, this is. I want to take me back in the bubble because this is weird. I don't understand what they're saying. I don't understand what they mean. I don't want to get in no trouble because where I'm from, you get hit in the face for saying that. So I was like, oh gosh, So I was just like, put me back over there till I can,
I
But
mean,
it was amazing.
what's amazing is, and what's very, okay, I've dealt with fame on a very low level and found it quite difficult. There's you come to England, your father's just died, then you're put into this new world, and then you achieve success and you get attention, it changes. How did you deal with fame at that period, or were you just on some sort of hamster wheel?
Hamster wheel. Definitely a hamster wheel. I call them wild horses. It's like definitely right now wild horses. And then the next thing you know, I live with Shaka Khan. I moved in with Shaka. It's like, who does that? I'm Shaka Khan, Shaka. I'm her roommate. It's like, what? And everybody in the industry, the good and great, always came through her flat when they were in town. Da da da. Sometimes I'm cooking food for Greg Filliganes, Nathan East, different people, Luther, whoever. Um, for me, I couldn't assess it. I couldn't, understand a lot of what was going on. Some of it, I just thought it was because of my American accent, that people were kind to me or wanting to get to know me. I was American or different or stuff like that. And then sometime um, I didn't want to go to places either because it would be too many people. I didn't I did not like people, but I didn't like to be around a lot of strangers because people, your energy, what you draw, you can start drawing things that have no idea who they are, as I'm sure you know. You you could have no idea who they are. No matter they could be a star themselves or they could be a groupie of one of the stars in the room or something. So I found I got very like this actually, you know, and then at the same time you have to be like this, Even like now I'm very introverted. I guess I'm an introvert extrovert. I didn't need the COVID lockdown. I was on lockdown anyway. I'm like, I've been on lockdown for 20, 30 years.
Oh dear. But then, I knew you in that period where you were really having a lot of success and things were working very well. And I totally understand what you say, because I did also feel, I think I'm a bit of a loner, actually. And then it's a bit odd when you're in sometimes the center of attention and sometimes the person that other people want to know, and you are insecure about why, and for me, being on MTV, sometimes with artists would call me up and I'd think, what do they want? Do you know what I mean? Instead of, and I was much more someone who was very isolated. I had, one very, very good friend, and that was enough for me in a lot of ways. Who did you focus on? Was it you and Shaka at that point?
Me and Shaka. Shaka, I love her to bits. Oh my, I'm about to cry. Girl, you got me crying. But yeah, she, if anybody has been through hell in this industry, she has. And when I met her, I think she was a bit on a sabbatical. This is in hindsight, from the industry, but at the same time, the industry wanting material from her. So they would put her on a sabbatical, but they would still want her to go and record or whatever. Because you need a break in this. Like you said, it's a hamster wheel. She'd been on it since the 70s. But I confided in her a lot. And a lot of time I didn't have to, because she could see what I was going through, because she'd been through it. She was like, you know what? Do this. You know what? Do that. You know what? Don't trust this. Don't trust that. Don't trust them. Don't trust that. Because sometimes, I'd be getting the calls, or I'd be getting this or that, or people would be calling for her, and maybe she wasn't there. And I'd answer the phone and they go, oh, but Kym, what can you? Da da da. She was like, you're the second choice. Don't go. And sometimes they'd call us, and we'd be sitting at home watching, just in our pajamas, believe it or not, watching a movie. And people go, oh, both of you are in town, da, da, da. Oh, come to this, some big gala event that you need to know weeks ahead of time, because you need a stylist. And, you got to do red carpets. In the 90s were really put together as well. And she was like, we were their second thought, Kym. I'm not going, and neither are you. And I was like, okay. And but certain things you learn about motives, and that some of it is business and some of you have to do anyway, even though it's shit. You still have to do it, anyway, because it's part of the promotion, or it's part of this, it's part of your own brand. So you have to just suck it up and go ahead and do it, and hopefully it'll turn out all right for you.
But how did you, and I always feel this is really important, because how did you protect yourself by not letting everything of yourself out there? Do you know, like, everyone wants to know everything, especially when you're interviewed, like I do, I'm like digging. And
Yeah.
everyone wants to know everything and everyone wants a piece of you. How did you protect yourself? I remember interviewing Madonna, and Madonna, I asked her a question and she said, oh, let me think, what would Madonna say? She said, what would Madonna say?
Yeah,
and then I realized she was thinking of herself as another person. A way
split in two.
Yeah. So is that what
Or
you
in
do?
3. Or in 5. But yeah. I think the sunlight is on me now from the window coming, but it's okay.
No, I think it's gone. It's like bringing the light on you.
All right.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
I'll take that. But yeah, just protecting yourself from, letting certain things out or certain people in around you when certain things are happening, because, people might see stuff and start talking. I really kept myself private, really. And yeah, and I do remember one time this guy was around me a lot, and I was going through a lot of stuff, and he was a nice guy, and he used to be around me like through some of my bad times, even though I was in my high time of fame. I was going through stuff behind the curtain or whatever, just trying to figure out stuff here, being stuck here, not knowing what to do with dead time, because there was a lot of dead time. The record company just, nobody called you, you were on your own to go and discover, and anything you discovered could have been really bad for you. So sometimes this gentleman, and I don't even know his name to this day, I can't even remember, but something that happened, I don't know if it was the Mick Jagger stuff when I was working with Mick, or I can't remember, but it was quite a few things, and I used to talk to him about it. And one day we went to an event, and Boy George pulled me to the side and said, "What you doing with him? He works for that scumbag newspaper, the Mirror, or one of them thingies. Why is he with you, Kym?" I was like, I didn't even know what the Mirror was then either, or nothing. But I must say, this guy held my confidence. He never took any story anywhere.
Oh wow. Well, that's unusual. That's amazing.
Never, ever, ever did. And I can't remember. And he wasn't around me all the time. Maybe twice, maybe 2 or 3 times he came around me to my house in South Kensington.
Oh wow.
And
That's
I
incredible.
don't know, I can't remember him to this day. And a matter of fact, somebody said one time he stopped a story. So I guess he was an angel or one of the good guys, that maybe he liked me, or maybe, I don't know, but now, and I had a way more who went and sent stuff to the press and said stuff. I remember getting like sitting on TV breakfast shows, and then some really rubbish, awful newspaper, like, oh, like him left her daughter or something stupid that wasn't even true in the newspaper. Um, and then being on the live TV show, then presenting the headline to me on the show to see my reaction. Live breakfast television, 7 in the morning. And I'm like, what do you do? That's when I stopped like promoting stuff. I was like, okay, this is fine, EMI, to promote a record, but I don't trust these people. And I remember Jazzy B telling me, do not trust this press. Don't do interviews with them. Don't blah, blah, blah. You don't understand England, Kym. You don't know. They'll build you up to knock you down. They'll do this to do that. Don't trust them. And I was like, and then I started later on a little bit to see, some of that. But I just, I really stuck to myself. And living with Shaka, like I said, gave me a great landing place. And then she was American. And everybody that would come in that space, we were all Americans and artists. So it was like a whole community. And then, of course, I had like Nellie Hooper, who was with Soul to Soul. Me and Nellie were really close. Jazzy, me and Jazzy were really close. His sisters, you know, they would help me. And then later on, I was working with Jocelyn. Jocelyn was another artist, American. You know, Jocelyn was mean too. Woo! Jocelyn was mean too. Woo, baby, she was not easy. Woo, baby, she was not easy. But I could understand. I had not been burnt by the industry like how this woman was burnt. I mean, that record she did with Jelly Bean Benitez, they stole 3 samples of her voice from that. I got the power, the one that Bizarre Inc. did, Angie, whatever her name is, sang Jocelyn's hook, and Moby. All 3 of those hooks came from one song, One Woman. And I don't think at that time when I met her, she was getting 1 royalty. Yeah, why waste your time? You know you're going to be mine. That's a hook from Jocelyn's ad lib from the same record that I Got the Power came from. So 3 songs worth multi-millions. And she's like, so I don't blame her for being mean. I was like, ooh, this woman mean. I'm scared of her.
But the industry is tough. I mean, it's a bit of a horrendous place, and they can chew you up and throw you out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was
And
in one of my records. You chew me up and spit me out like a bad piece of meat. And what's up? Don't scandalize my name. Don't have me to get upset. Yeah, that was in that record. Yeah, okay.
so,
It's awful. It could be bad, the industry.
I mean, to me, from reading, what you do online and where you are today, you've definitely seemed to have reached a point where the love is really there for you today. You're and whether there was a period when it wasn't there, it's definitely come round again, and I think that's very positive. Do you feel that now, that you're more respected for what you've achieved in your life today than you were when you were achieving it?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, because there's a lot of young artists that I looked out for, and now and I never heard from them again. And I was talking to Angie Lamar about this today. Uh, I was like the backstage mom for a lot of the young artists coming up, from the Sugar Babes to Eternal to Blue. I love every last one of them boys. All four of them are my sons, and I love them a bit. Anytime they see me, Simon Lee, any of them, any Duncan, all of them, Anthony, they're Mama Kym. They love me. I love them. You know what I'm saying? But I was like keeping my eye out for a lot of young artists, and there are a lot of them that did pay pay it forward back to me, look out for me then and now. And there are a lot that, act like you weren't even the one to help pave a way for them to make it easier. And I don't know if that's a UK thing, because in America, people will find out, even if they don't know who you are, they'll go find out who you are and go like, oh, you the one that did all the house music stuff. Oh, Mamacita. Oh, girl, can you help me with this? Or big up to you, or kudos, here's your flowers. That does not happen in the UK. They just carry on like they invented the wheel, or, blah, blah, blah. I know as time goes on, they're going to want someone to pay homage to them. And it may not happen. What goes around sometimes comes around. But I think you have to withstand a lot of storms. Um, and still a lot of things, like I should be on or doing, I don't get the calls for from industry. I really, really don't. It's just like you gotta knock down the door. It's like, why do I have to knock down the door though? My record, stands for itself, whether it's sitting on a panel talking about something, which I can talk about anything all day long. I don't need to audition to sit on a panel. I've made enough records, worked with enough people, that I really don't feel like recording anymore. If one person asks me, Kym, do you want to? I don't. I really don't, because I have recorded so many songs that the record company said, this is not your brand or whatever. This is not the way we want to market you. Great songs now. Um, and I'm tired. I have like so many demos from this and that and masters tapes. I'm like, they can rework this, they can redo that. Cause I think maybe 2017, I just said, why am I recording? Me and my girlfriend Penny Ford, who is Snap. Me and Penny, we talk about it all the time. It's like, girl, I am not singing another flipping note except for my live shows. And I love doing the live shows. I love working with my band. I love being a heritage artist. I love being a legacy artist or whatever. They have loads of shows that a lot of us are on, from Tony Hadley and myself, and Billy Ocean, and Betty Boop, everybody, Snap, Kym Mazelle, da da da. And those shows are great because the people remember where they were when they were singing or when they saw you. And a lot of times, sometimes people have other artists that'll come in and sing your song, or not even artists, other singers that are, maybe made it sixth on Britain's Got Talent, but here they are singing your song with some band. I don't like that, because number one, it's wrong to the fan, because the fans want to see the original person that sang it. They do want to see you. They do want to see Kym Mazelle with Soul to Soul. They do, because when you still look good for your age, and you look good, baby. I want to tell you that, Steve Blame. You looking good, baby. Okay. But that also inspires the generation that came up with you, because they're the same age. They're like, she's fucking good. Oh, it inspires people to see their contemporaries still out here, still making the effort, still representing, as we say, instead of putting a 25-year-old up there singing your song. Or, I really have a problem with that, because there's another great group out in Germany and doing different stuff with this girl singing my song. And I really don't like that. Maybe if I was dead, I wouldn't. I'd be like, well, I'm not here. Or if the internet wasn't around and you couldn't find me. Because what I found out, that anytime anybody wants you, all of a sudden they can send you a DM message on Instagram. It's like, so that people have Facebook pages and Instagram pages. So if you need me, you do know how to find me. So all of the other times when you are not finding me or using me, but you're using somebody else because you choose not to. So don't come up in my face saying, oh, I didn't know you were here. Well, if I ain't here, I can excuse my French, I can get here, because there are planes and people been flying me around for forever.
Well, I just want to say at the end, it's so brilliant to see you again and feel like I'm, in the same room, but I'm not. But, and what I always adored about you, with your talent aside, because that's clear, is this warmth, this energy, this force of nature. And I always remember you as an extremely kind soul.
Oh.
And I think that's lovely. And I've had some of the most fantastic evenings of my life, even though you can't remember them.
I do. I mean, I remember Greece a little bit.
Well, I don't know how I remember them, to be honest, because I think I was a bit wild back then. But anyhow, I remember them well, and I am name checked. I have a thank you on one of your tracks, which I loved. And I remember the day when the Beloved song came out and they name checked you in that song, and you were so touched. And it was lovely to see, because here was a star who was also touched by this recognition of your talent from another band.
Wow.
So Kym Mazelle, I just want to say at the end, it's so lovely to see you again. It really is. And we left it too long. We left it far too long.
Hello.
I know.
Hello.
Anyhow, my darling, I'm going to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve Blame.
All right.
Love you.
Bye.
Ciao.
Up there is an interview I recommend. Down there is where you can find all the podcast interviews. And here is where you can connect.